By 22 years old, with the different businesses that I own, I've generated millions of dollars. But here's the thing. It didn't happen when I was grinding 14-hour days, obsessing over every single little metric, and desperately chasing success in different aspects of my life. It actually happened when I learned to let go. Most people think making millions requires you to be attached to the outcome. And in all fairness, you do have to work hard, but being attached to that outcome is what's keeping you broke. And that's why the law of detachment, while it sounds counterintuitive, is actually the path to success. And now the path to success is not a straight line. There's been times in my life where I've been successful and I'm performing well, and I'm kind of in like a flow state. Whether that was with girls, relationships, whether that was getting grades in middle school, high school, whether that was making money with different business ventures, I always had the most success when I wasn't overthinking it and I wasn't completely attached to the outcome. A good example of this is the movie that just came out, the F1 movie with Brad Pitt. Throughout the entire movie, the main character that Brad Pitt plays, Sonny Hayes, he's attached to winning the races. Sonny Hayes, who was a real F1 driver, was on track to become one of the best F1 drivers in the world, and then he got in a really bad accident, and his life went into a down spiral from there. Doing drugs, drinking alcohol, and just not putting the work in on the things that were going to move him ahead. And again, in this movie, he's attached to the outcome of winning the races. But when he finally is able to detach, and he even says it, where he finds that flow state where it feels like he's floating when he's driving the car, he wins the championship, and that's the end of the movie. Sorry to spoil it, but that's really how it goes. And I think a great example of this, something that I vividly have experienced in my own life, is going out to, say, nightlife, nightclubs, bars, stuff like this. When you have this attachment to having a great night and maybe pulling a girl back home or these different things, whatever it is in the night, that's always when it doesn't happen. And when you're completely detached and you're just like, hey, I'm going to have a great night no matter what happens, and I'm going to have a positive mindset, and I'm going to make it good no matter what happens. I'm detached from the outcome. That's the time I've had the best nights. And these are in major cities, Houston, Los Angeles, Miami, and going out with girls that I'd like to say that I didn't ever think I was going to be going out with, but that's just not the truth. I always knew that I was going to be in this position going out with that quality of girls, but regardless, I didn't expect to be doing it at that time, and it just so happens that it comes like that. The nights that I was the most detached, the most in abundance, that's when it all comes. And it's the exact same thing with having success and making more money. Because when you're so attached to the outcome, your brain is making more emotional decisions rather than logical ones. And in business and in life in general, bad moves hurt you more than good moves help you. For example, if you have $100 and you invest it to say into some stocks and you lose 50%, you have $50. And then if you gain 50% back on that $50, now you only have $75. So it's much harder to make that climb back when you make that wrong decision. It was like when I was listening to Dave Portnoy on a podcast recently, he said once he made his first $10 million, which I know $10 million, it seems like a lot of money, but he said once he made his first 10 million, money just flowed to him. It was 100K here, 500K here, a multi-million-dollar deal here, and then it just compounded on each other, and now he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, which again, $10 million is a lot of money, but it's not a lot in comparison to hundreds of millions. And this is why some of the wealthiest, most successful people in the world, they're able to make these logical decisions because they already have money, and therefore they don't have to go for the quick plays or the quick money grabs where they can just sit and think and make the best decisions and go into an opportunity that's going to be the best opportunity, not just the opportunity that's in front of them. And another big one is attachment creates resistance. There's this weird psychological phenomenon where the more you need something, the more you push it away. It's like trying to grab water. The tighter you squeeze the water, the more it's going to push away out of your hand. And I see this all the time with entrepreneurs, especially young ones. The ones that are the most attached to making the money and checking the dashboards and obsessively on all the little things and not living their life and letting it flow to them are the ones that don't see the big success. Whereas my friend, who's 19 years old and a multimillionaire, I think he told me his net worth is close to $2 million at this point. I asked him how he did it, like how he made so much money by 19 years old, And he said one of the biggest lessons he learned from the last year was he was happiness maxing. And I was like, well, what do you mean happiness maxing? Like, what's that even mean? And he just told me that he was maximizing for happiness. Like, he wanted to be in a good state of mind to do great work. And he was really just living in abundance, and he was detached from the outcomes. He's like, I'm going to live my best life. And the money flowed to him. And that's allowed him to get a Ferrari, a McLaren, a Corvette, and a $500,000 watch collection. All these nice things that he's gotten because he was detached from actually making the money and just focused on living a great life. It's even the same thing with making these YouTube videos. Like, I've overthought making videos for such a long time, but when I just detach from the outcome, like, I don't care how many views it's going to get, I don't care who sees it or any of these things, I'm just going to make videos about what I'm interested about and what I think could be helpful to other people and kind of document my journey and just focus on getting one video out a week, and that's it. So now you might be thinking, okay, I get it. Attachment's bad, but how do I detach when I have bills to pay and you're time constrained and things like that? And this is where most people get stuck. So what's worked for me is focusing on the inputs and not the outputs. And I know it sounds simple, but the truth of the world is that everything that needs to be said has already been said, but since no one was listening, it has to be said again. So I'm more so reminding you of how to think about this. Again, focus on the inputs, not the outputs. If you're trying to become a big YouTuber or get millions of views on social media, just focus on getting one video out a week, one video out a day, whatever the goal is, and being consistent with that, because consistency is key. Another huge one is trusting the process. Again, it sounds simple. I'm sure you've heard trust the process before, but what does that actually mean? Well, it means that the only way out is through, and you have to trust that process. There's no one specific business model that's going to make you millions of dollars. There's people that are highly successful in maybe e-commerce, but they didn't succeed in starting a marketing agency or making YouTube videos or other business ventures. Where there's people that are successful with YouTube videos, but they tried e-commerce and they tried marketing and all these different businesses. So while I believe that like there's some businesses that work for certain types of people more than others, it was more so that these people understood that they had to become the type of person that could succeed with it, and then they just finally focus on the process and not the outcome. And again, I see this all the time with people trying to start businesses. Like, they're so attached to getting it right the first time, or they're so attached to hitting 10K per month within their first 3 months, and it's just unrealistic. Do you know how many businesses that I've started and failed? How many partnerships that I've started and failed? And when you look at the most successful people in the world, it's not by accident. It's because they posted more content, they've read more books, they've studied more, they've listened to more podcasts, like they've just done more of everything. The most successful people in the world have failed many times over, more than people have even tried in the first place. Again, the law of detachment, it works in all areas of your life, even relationships. When I stopped being desperate for approval and I was just genuinely curious about the relationship, like, hey, is this a cool person? Do they have good energy? Like, what are their interests? Do we have similar interests? Like, just very basic stuff. That's when the relationships flourish the most. Whenever I tried to force a relationship, it never really ended up working out. And my friends that are highly successful, they found the same thing and they agree on this. Same thing with your health. It's about building those strong habits that you fall back to. So instead of being so attached to like a certain specific outcome, it's like, hey, just take the emotion out of it, take the attachment out of it, and just focus on how many days do I need to work out? How many calories do I need to eat? What does my environment have to look like? What is the mindset of the person that's healthy and has the body that I want to have and has the health that I want to have? And lastly, investments, which is just money, and this is where most people suffer. Most people don't have any money because they're always making short-term decisions. So one of the things I do is I wait to make decisions. If I'm unsure about it or it's late at night and I feel myself being a little bit emotional about it, I'll just sleep on it, or I'll take about 12 to 24 hours so I can make the best decision possible. And something important to note about decision making is there's two types of decisions. There's decisions that you can come back from, and there's decisions that you can't come back from. Jeff Bezos talks about it like a revolving door. Some doors you can open and then walk back out of, and some doors you open and walk through, and once you close that door, there's no looking back. For example, if you have a kid, that's a decision that you obviously can't come back from. You just brought another human onto this planet. But a decision of what you're going to eat for dinner tonight, whether it's Chipotle or another spot, that's a decision that's not going to majorly affect your life because you can just choose something else for dinner the next night. I also have a ton of gratitude for failure, and this is kind of hard to wrap your mind around, but instead of thinking like, oh, I failed, it's more, oh, I learned. And when something leaves my life, and I say I was attached to something and I really want something to happen, and that leaves or I don't get that, well, I just reframe it as that's leaving my life and opening the door and opening space for something new and better to come in. Also, another thing that's great is just getting really clear on your why. Always reminding yourself and remembering why you started doing any of this or anything in the first place. Why you want to even be successful or do this thing or that thing. For me, the best exercise I found for this is basically the 7 whys. So it's basically asking why 7 times in a row, and you can do this with someone else. But this peels back the layers of the onion where you can get to your most deep-rooted why. Remember, the goal is not to care about success. The goal is to care so much about the process that you naturally detach from the outcome. That's when the magic happens, and that's when you reach that flow state and everything comes to you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.